The future is not a spreadsheet. We crave precise numbers, neat projections of the economic cost of climate change. But the Earth's systems are complex, their reactions to our abuse difficult to predict. We can model, we can estimate, but ultimately, the true cost of our inaction remains shrouded in uncertainty. The longer we wait, the more unpredictable and devastating that cost will be. This is not hyperbole, it is the terrifying logic of tipping points, of feedback loops that spin out of control. Imagine a world with more frequent and intense natural disasters, mass displacement of people, entire ecosystems collapsing. Now try to put a price tag on that. The truth is, we are terrible at accounting for the truly catastrophic. Our economic models, built for a stable climate, buckle under the weight of such profound disruption. They struggle to capture the non-linear, cascading nature of climate impacts. How do you quantify the loss of cultural heritage, the disappearance of entire ways of life? How do you put a dollar value on the extinction of a species, the suffering of millions? These are not merely economic questions, they are moral ones, ethical ones that expose the deep inadequacy of our current frameworks. We are sailing into uncharted territory, and our maps are woefully incomplete. To pretend otherwise, to cling to the false comfort of precise economic forecasts, is to court disaster. We need to acknowledge the limitations of our knowledge, the inherent unpredictability of a changing climate. This is not an excuse for inaction, but rather a call for a fundamental shift in perspective. We must move beyond the narrow lens of cost-benefit analysis and embrace a more holistic understanding of the risks we face. The economic costs of climate change are staggering, but even more so, they are diffuse, interwoven into the very fabric of our globalized world. Think of the supply chains disrupted by extreme weather, the insurance premiums skyrocketing in vulnerable areas. Consider the agricultural yields plummeting as traditional growing seasons become unpredictable, leading to food shortages and price spikes. These are not isolated incidents, but rather the first tremors of a systemic crisis. Then there are the public health impacts often overlooked in the cold calculus of dollars and cents. Heat waves grow more frequent and intense, pushing already strained healthcare systems to their limits. The spread of infectious diseases expands as vectors like mosquitoes thrive in warmer temperatures. Respiratory illnesses surge as air pollution worsens, driven by wildfires and other climate-related events. These health burdens fall disproportionately on the most vulnerable, exacerbating existing inequalities. And what about the mental health toll? The anxiety of living with constant environmental uncertainty, the trauma of displacement, the grief over lost homes, livelihoods, and ecosystems. These invisible wounds are difficult to quantify, but their impact is undeniable. The human cost of climate change extends far beyond the purely economic, encompassing a profound erosion of well-being and social cohesion. Climate change acts as a threat multiplier, exacerbating existing social and economic inequalities. The poorest and most marginalized communities, those least responsible for the crisis, bear the brunt of its impacts. They often lack the resources to adapt to changing conditions, to recover from extreme weather events, or to migrate to safer areas. This injustice is compounded by historical power imbalances, with wealthy nations having benefited disproportionately from the very activities driving climate change. The consequences of this uneven burden are profound. Increased poverty, displacement, and conflict over scarce resources are all potential outcomes. The stability of entire regions is at stake, with mass migration and climate-induced conflict becoming increasingly likely scenarios. Addressing these inequalities is not merely a matter of charity, it is a matter of global security and justice. Section 4. When models fail. Traditional economic models, with their emphasis on short-term gains and market-based solutions, are ill-equipped to grapple with the complexities of climate change. They struggle to account for the long-term, irreversible nature of the crisis, the interconnectedness of ecosystems, and the intrinsic value of the natural world. Their reliance on discounting the future effectively writes off the well-being of future generations in favor of present-day profits. Moreover, these models are often based on flawed assumptions about human rationality and the ability of markets to self-correct. They fail to take into account the power dynamics at play, the influence of vested interests, and the potential for collective action problems. The climate crisis demands a fundamental rethinking of our economic system. one that prioritizes sustainability, equity, and the long-term well-being of both people and the planet. Section 5. Beyond the price tag. We cannot afford to wait for precise cost estimates before taking action on climate change. The longer we delay, the higher the price we will ultimately pay. Instead of fixating on numbers, we need to focus on building resilience, on transitioning to a low-carbon economy, on investing in adaptation measures that protect the most vulnerable. This requires a fundamental shift in our values, a recognition that the pursuit of endless economic growth on a finite planet is a recipe for disaster. We need to embrace a more holistic vision of progress, one that prioritizes well-being, social justice, and ecological sustainability. The climate crisis is not merely a technical challenge, it is a call to reimagine our relationship with the natural world and with each other. The time for incremental change has long passed. We need bold, transformative action now.